Chapter 15. Renee, I can't believe you're doing this, Julie said. They were walking back to the dorm after breakfast. The sun was pumpkin orange and still low in the morning sky. The tall grass was wet against her ankles. Renee took a deep breath of fresh air. Everything seemed so fresh, so clear that morning. The whole world was brighter. I think I understand it, Julie continued, but I still don't believe you're leaving. You've got to change your mind. Renee shook her head. Her hair was still wet from her shower. Why do I have to change my mind? Because you have to, Julie insisted. Well, I'm already packed and I called my parents last night. They'll be here this morning. So I guess I couldn't change my mind even if I wanted to, Renee said all in one breath. Julie pulled up a long strand of grass and began chewing on it as they walked. But you can't let Hetty win, she said, waving to one of the boys from the set design crew. This may be hard to understand, Renee said, but I really don't see this as a defeat. I see it as a victory. Julie pulled the blade of grass from between her teeth. A victory? That's right, I see it. But Renee, you're running away. No. If I stayed here and went on as if nothing had happened, as if I still believed in the play, as if I still believed in Bax, in what I was doing here, then I'd be running away. I'd be running away from my true feelings, from what I really want. I'd be a victim, Julie. I'd be letting others control me, but I'm not doing that. I'm leaving because that's what I choose to do, and that's why I see it as a victory. Nice speech, Julie said sarcastically. What's your problem, Julie? Why are you giving me such a hard time this morning? Julie walked a few steps ahead. I don't know. I guess I feel responsible. It was my idea to bring you here. But nothing that happened to me here was your fault. Or was it? She couldn't help thinking. Was Julie making such a fuss about her leaving because she felt guilty for the things she had done to her? No, Renee told herself. Stop thinking that way. She's just concerned about you. She just doesn't want you to make a wrong choice and be unhappy. Maybe I'll ask Bax if I can try out for the lead, Julie said, thinking out loud. That might keep Hetty from getting it. I don't care about Hetty, Renee told her. I really don't. They went into the room. Julie opened the window to let some fresh air in. Renee packed a few final items into her trunk. The trunk was only half filled since most of her clothing had been slashed. Now what do we do? Sit around and stare at each other till your parents come? Julie asked with an uncomfortable laugh. I think I want to take one last walk, Renee said. Just by myself, maybe walk down by the water. It's so pretty here. I never really was in the mood to appreciate it. She had to get out of that dorm room. Julie was getting on her nerves and she didn't want anyone to spoil her good mood. Julie acted a little hurt, but Renee figured she was probably relieved too that Renee was going out. As she headed down the path toward the water, the sun was higher over the trees. It was going to be a hot day. She pulled off the light denim jacket she was wearing and tied it around her waist. Except for a few kids hanging around the front of the theater, the camp seemed empty. Most kids were still eating breakfast in the mess hall. Some were sleeping late since rehearsals didn't start until afternoon. Renee was startled to see someone else heading down to the water. It was Hetty. Oh, you, Hetty said, rolling her eyes. She was wearing a black bikini. Her hair was tucked into a white bathing cap. Renee kept walking. I knew you couldn't stick it out, Hetty said, hurrying to keep up with her. This isn't the place for you. No, it isn't, Renee agreed, walking even faster. I guess I'll have the role after all, Hetty said. Renee turned suddenly to face her. Surprised, Hetty stumbled and almost fell over backward in the slippery grass. How can you take any satisfaction in the role knowing what you did to get it? Renee cried. I don't know what you're talking about, Hetty said with exaggerated innocence. Yes, you do, Renee said, forcing herself to stay calm, forcing her voice to stay low and steady. But you're too good an actress to let on. Thanks for the compliment, Hetty said sarcastically. It means so much coming from you, and here's the nicest thing I'll ever say to you. Goodbye. She turned and, evidently forgetting about her swim, stomped back up the hill. Break a leg, Renee called after her. She was pleased to get the last word in, but it wasn't much of a victory. She hates me, Renee thought, continuing down the path. Someone I hardly know really hates me, and all because of a silly part in a silly summer camp play. She could see the boathouse now at the end of the small rickety dock, and she could hear the waves of the sound splashing and churning onto the sandy shore. The tide was coming in. I should have put on a bathing suit, she thought. I could have taken one last swim. She made her way more carefully as the hill grew steeper and sandier. 2 gulls floated lazily in the clear sky above. It's so beautiful here, she told herself. What a shame I never noticed till now. The splash of the waves grew louder. Suddenly she heard a sound behind her, a cracking twig, running footsteps. Someone was coming after her.